Hello there, and a very warm welcome to our webinar about streamlining your payroll with online payslips. My name's Duncan. I'll be hosting the webinar today, and I am joined by my colleagues Alice, Cav, and Ollie, who are all standing by in the background, ready and waiting to answer any questions. Let's now take a look at what we'll cover in the webinar. So we'll start with an introduction to Sage HR online services, which is now available with a Sage 50 payroll subscription. And this is the platform that will host your online payslips. We're then going to move into some practical demonstrations, first explaining the setup of online payslips, helping you to get up and running quickly with our step-by-step guide and making sure that that process runs as smoothly as possible. I'm then going to demonstrate how to upload and view payslips. So you upload them from your payroll software and you view them from a browser in Sage HR or from a mobile app if you're an employee. And then we're going to go into more detail on the employee experience, showing you the employee's journey from the point that you set them up for online payslips to them logging into the online portal, and also a look at the mobile app as well. We're going to finish the webinar with a look at your next steps. So for those of you not currently on subscription, we'll give you information on how to check that and how to get more details on moving to subscription. And I'd also like to tell you about some of our further support services. So let's get straight on to the introduction. And I'd just like to mention some of the key benefits of online payslips, starting with the convenience and accessibility aspect. So with hosting payslips online in a secure online portal, it means that employees can self-serve and access any payslips that you've uploaded either from a browser or from a mobile app. And that would be anytime, anywhere that they have an internet connection. So that should cut down on those admin queries that you may get when employees might be asking for copies of their payslips that they've lost, or they can't find the email that was sent with their payslip attached. It also brings with it enhanced security. So online payslips reduce the risk of losing sensitive information. So there'll be no payslips left around the printer area if you print them out. They won't be intercepted via emails if anyone hacks into emails. And employees do have the option of setting up two-factor authentication as an extra layer of security, so you can do that for them. But they will need, obviously, to log into this online portal to view their payslips. As well as that, they get the convenience of a mobile app. It's a Sage HR app available in the App Store and Google Play Store. So that gives them even more convenience, being able to download and view payslips from their mobile device. And there's some more functionality that comes with the Sage HR online services, whereby employees can view and update any personal details. They can add things like profile pictures. They can view documents that have been shared with them, all from the Sage HR platform. Now, this all comes included with your Sage Payroll subscription, if you're on a subscription license, and you can read more about the benefits of online services if you follow the link that I've linked to in the handout. And if you're not currently on subscription and you'd like us to contact you with more details on that, we'll give you a way of doing that at the end of the webinar. So next thing I'd like to cover is how you get up and running with online payslips. And we're going to start with a little bit of preparation just to ensure that this is a completely smooth process and it minimizes kind of any potential issues you may come across. Now, when you first set up online payslips for your employee, an employee profile will be created in Sage HR using the details from their payroll record. And specifically, information from their record that is sent to Sage HR to create their profile includes their first name and surname, their address, the employee's start date, telephone and mobile numbers, as well as their date of birth. So we would recommend that you review your payroll data to ensure that these details are all accurate and up to date. And I'd like to draw particular attention to the start date, as this is not a mandatory field in Sage Payroll, but it is mandatory in HR. So if you have not entered an employment start date in Payroll, when you set up an employee for online payslips, HR will use the current date as their employment start date. So that would need to be updated at a later date for that to be accurate. So we would suggest that you work through reviewing your employee data, doing a bit of a data cleanse as part of your preparation for setting up online services. We've got some tips on the best ways you can check that information in the guide that I've linked to. Now, if you're happy with the employee details in Payroll, there are a few things you will need to complete the setup. So I'm just going to work through this checklist with you now. So first of all, you need to have installed the latest update to Sage Payroll. That's version 28.1. Now, if you haven't done that already, you can click Help and then check for updates within Sage Payroll to download the automatic update. Or you can download it from our install guide, which I've linked to at the bottom of this slide. You also need to have a payroll subscription license. So if you are still on one of our annual support contracts, rather than a payroll subscription, you will see a message when you come to set up online payslips that will tell you that it's not available with your license. But don't worry, it is easy to switch over to a payroll subscription. Even if you're in the middle of an annual contract, then you would get credit for the unused portion of that previous support contract. And we will give you a way of requesting a callback from our team if that's something that you're keen to go ahead with sooner rather than later. You're also going to need to know your payroll admin user login details. Now, the default password for the admin user is pass, but if you have logged in as an admin recently, you will have been prompted to change that password to something else. So that will be required as part of the setup process, so make sure you know what that is. You'll need an email address for each employee who will be using online payslips, and that must be unique to them. If you've already recorded email addresses in the employee records, that same email address will be copied to the online services section, but it can be amended before you set your employee up if you want to use a different email address for them. And you're going to need a Sage account, that's an email address and a password, to become your owner and administrator profile in Sage HR. Now, it's important to note that this must not be an employee email address. It needs to be separate to any employee email addresses. And this will become the owner administrator account, which has full access to all of the settings in Sage HR and will be able to view all payslips for everyone in the payroll. Now, that Sage account will be used across all of your payrolls if you have more than one setup within Sage Payroll. And we do suggest a generic style email address, such as payroll@company.com, HR@company.com, as opposed to an individual employee's email address. And for that admin user, you will also need to set up two-factor authentication. So that would involve either setting up an authenticator app on a mobile device or providing a phone number to receive a code to. So that'll be a text code or a phone call. And we've got loads of information on two-factor authentication available on our help center. Now, that's what you're going to need. I'm going to show you the setup steps as I'm going to talk you through a video on this. There are 3 steps essentially involved. Number 1 is logging in to that Sage account that will become your owner and administrator account in HR. Second step is to register that payroll for online payslips. And then the third step will be to set up your employees, ensuring that they have an appropriate email address, and that will then upload their details to HR and create their HR profile. So let's take a look at that process now. I'm just going to bring these slides down, and I'm going to talk you through a video that we have of this process. So I'll just make that full screen for you. And we're going to start with step 1, which is logging in to a Sage account. Now, all of the setup is done from the online services menu option at the top of the screen just there. You'd come to online payslips, and that first step is to log in to a Sage account. As you can see, at this point, you will need to enter your payroll administrator password. So the default was pass, but as I say, most of you will have changed that recently. Once you've entered that administrator password, you're then going to be told that you're about to log in to a Sage account. And once logged in, you'll be able to register payrolls for online payslips, be able to set up employees, and you're going to be able to upload payslips to Sage HR. So you need to go ahead and click Login. That's then going to open up a separate window asking you for an email address that you want to use for your owner and administrator account. So you would go ahead and enter that email address. And depending whether that email address is already known to the system, so whether you've created a Sage account for that email address in the past, you will either be asked for the password if it's an existing Sage account, as it is in this example, or you'll be taken through the process to set up a Sage account by providing some personal details, setting up a password, and then setting up an authentication method. Now, in my example, I am using an existing Sage account, so I'm going to enter my existing password. I would then click onto the login option. And as you can see, it's now prompting me for a 6-digit code. And I've set this up using an authenticator app. So I'm just going to go onto the app, find the relevant 6-digit code that it generates, and then I can click Continue, which will then log us in. Now, as you can see there, my Sage account is currently logged in across all companies and payrolls. So you just need one Sage account to log into Sage Payroll. And then you'll be set up and ready to start registering your payrolls, and that will become your owner and administrator account. Now, it does tell you that it's possible to log out at this point. So if you decided, actually, that's not the email address I want to use as my owner administrator, you can log out and log back in as a different account. But once you've started registering payrolls, really you do need to stick to using that same Sage account being your main owner and administrator. So we're just going to close out of that message, and we're then ready to complete the second step, which is to register this payroll for online payslips. Now, you only need to do this once per payroll, and this is when the HR portal is set up for that payroll. So again, from online services and online payslips, this time we've chosen the option to register for online payslips. You need to enter that admin password again. So just popping those details in now. And if you click on to Next, you'll see this message telling you what Sage account you're currently logged in as. And because this is the first payroll I'm setting up, it's explaining that this will become the owner and administrator profile. And once registration is complete, this payroll will be available in Sage HR. So we're happy with that email address. I'm going to go ahead and click Register. You'll then see a progress bar. I've just sped this up slightly for the video as it registers that payroll with Sage HR. And then we've got the registration successful message confirming the owner administrator and the name of the payroll that is now registered for online payslips. So once you've seen that, you can close out of this step. You're then ready to move on to the final step, which is to set up your employees. So starting where we were, online services and then online payslips, we're going to go to the Manage Employees option. And from here, you'll see a list of all of your employees, and then there'll be an online services email column, which will contain the email address saved in their employee record. So if you had existing email addresses, they will be copied to the online services email, but you can at this point, before you set them up, change the email address for an individual employee. And then it's just a case of ticking the box to the right of the email address for those employees that you want to set up for online payslips. Now, it doesn't have to be everyone. You might start with a small pilot with a few employees just to test out how it works. Or if you do want to select everyone in the list, you can tick the box in that header row next to online payslips. I'm just going to do here, and that will select everyone in that list to be set up. Now, if there's any problems with the email addresses, if there's any duplicates, you'll be told here. But as soon as you click Save, that begins the process of uploading the employee information to HR. Again, I've sped this up for the video, so it will take a few seconds per employee. And then once it's finished, you'll get your confirmation of the number of employees you've successfully uploaded to HR. This will also generate an invitation email for your employees, which they need to respond to within 48 hours. So good idea to let your employees know before you do this so that they can respond to that email. If you do need to resend the invite email, you can do from HR. But at this point, I can click on to finish. And that would be my 3 setup steps complete. Now, as well as doing it this way, if I just switch over to my live copy of the program, you can also set up individual employees from their employee record. So if I was taking on a new employee, for example, when I create their employee record, I'm just going to pick out my most recent employee from this list. I can go to the Online Services tab, just up here, and then I can tick this box just to enable them for online payslips. And that will then upload the details of this individual employee, and it will generate their welcome email to be sent out so that they can then sign up and start accessing the HR portal. So this one's already set up. I've already got the box ticked, but it's from this Online Services tab where you enter the email address that they're going to use, and you can tick the box. So I've already completed the setup for this particular company, but just to remind you where those options were, it's this Online Services menu at the top. You'd come down to Online Payslips and you'd work through these 3 steps. Now, if you're not sure whether you're on a subscription, once you're on version 28.1, you'll still see these options, but as soon as you click onto any of them, you would see a message pop up telling you that this isn't available with your license. So for me, obviously I've been through these steps already. If I click on to log in again, it is going to tell me that I am already logged in. So it shows me my owner administrator account. And if I try to sort of register the payroll again, obviously it tells me it's already registered, but I can go back to manage employees at any point if I need to. So if I want to add more employees to the service, if I haven't already done so, we can do it as a batch from here. So that is the setup steps. Just to recap what we've been through there. So we started by logging into the Sage account that will become the owner administrator account. We then registered that payroll for online payslips. And then the 3rd step there was managing the employees and uploading their details. So we did that originally from the Online Services menu option, where you can do it in bulk. You've also seen that it can be set up for individual employees from the Online Services tab in their employee record. And there's an example of what the invitation email looks like. The employee can then respond to that email to set up their own login, which we're going to cover a little bit later on in the webinar. If I haven't responded within 48 hours, you can resend the welcome email in Sage HR. So follow the link on the handout if you want the steps for that. And I will also try and show you that a little bit later on. So now that we've got everything set up, the next thing I want to show you is the process for uploading and viewing your payslips. And this is from the point of view of the employer or the payroll operator. Now, when it comes to uploading payslips, it will just take a few clicks in your software. You will need to be at end of period in order to do this. And at the point you upload your payslips, they are published immediately and are then available for your employees to view. So as part of that upload process, an email will be sent to your employees telling them that there's a payslip available. And if they are using the mobile app, they'll also get a mobile app notification that they can then tap onto to view their payslip in the app. So you would do this at end of period for the current period, but it is also possible to go back to a period archive if you wanted to upload payslips for previous pay periods in the 2025 tax year. So from the point you set it up, you can upload current payslips moving forward, but if you needed to, you can go into miscellaneous company archive, and from that company archive, you can go back into previous periods in this year, and you can upload the payslips for that period. Here's just an example of the payslip notification. So they get a notification email and a push message if they're using the mobile app. And then from that point, that payslip is live. They'll be able to view that from a browser or from the mobile app. So I'd like to give you a demo of that process now. So let me just bring these slides down. Now for this particular payroll, I'm in period 23 and I'm at status time and pay calculated. So I've been through and I've entered the payment details for the current period. I would need to print my control summaries and gross to net reports in the usual way. And then when I'm ready to, I would run end of period to complete payroll for period 23. And because I'm now at status end of period, I do now have the option of uploading my online payslips. So you would still do your submissions in the usual way, payroll submissions and enhanced reporting submissions where applicable. It is still possible to view and print payslips the old way if you've got employees that are not using online payslips. But for those that you have set up, what I can now do is I can click the Upload Online Payslips option from the process map. And you can also find the same option if you go to Online Services, Online Payslips, and you'll see it here at the bottom of the menu. So when you go into this, it will show you a grid with the employee details, as well as their gross pay and net pay values. By default, everyone will be selected in this grid that you've set up for online payslips, and it will display the upload payslip status, which will indicate whether or not payslips have already been uploaded for this period. So if you can't remember whether you did it, you can come into this option and check the payslip status. Now, I'm ready to upload these now, so I'm going to go ahead and click the button at the bottom. And what the system will then do is it will start uploading the payslips one by one for each of these employees. And as you can see, there is a progress bar on screen telling you what payslip it's up to. And whilst this is happening, the employees will receive that notification email. If they're mobile app users, they'll get the push notification. So I've just had one come through because I'm set up for one of these employees. And behind the scenes, it'll also be uploading a PDF version of the payslip, and that will be in a more familiar format. So it uses the payslip layout that you'd have seen if you printed them out. So the kind of full high-res version of the payslip is also going to be available for your employees to either view on screen from Sage HR or to download, and if required, they could share that with anyone that they needed to. So that is nearly complete. It's uploading 9 of 10. And once that final payslip has been uploaded to Sage HR, you'll see I've got my confirmation message. It's letting me know that the email has been sent to those employees, telling them the payslip's available to view. And I would just click Finish to complete that process. So obviously the time that it will take to do this will depend on the number of employees you're uploading for, and to some extent the speed of your internet connection. So once you've set that off running, you would just need to wait until it's complete. So if you've got a larger payroll, it's a good opportunity to make yourself a cuppa. So those payslips are now uploaded. And before we look at what the employee will see, I'd like to give you a little bit of insight as to what you could see if you log in as the owner administrator account in Sage HR. Now, to get to the login, go to Online Services, Sage HR, and then there's a link here to go to Sage HR, and that's going to open up a browser with the Sage HR sign-in page. So you would put in your administrator details, so the email address that you set up for your owner administrator and the password. And if it's the first time you're logging in from a browser, you'll also need to put in your authenticator code. I'm already logged in as an admin, so I've already been through that login process. And as you can see here on the left-hand side, I've got various options that I can navigate to. And because I'm an administrator, I have this Payslips area on the left-hand side. And from the Payslips, I've actually got access to all of the Payslips that have been uploaded. So I've just done the ones for the 6th of June. You can see the publish date has been set to today's date. And it also means that I can quickly view any of these Payslips in the same format that they could be viewed by the employee by simply clicking on the Payslip like so, and then scrolling through the information. So like I say, we're going to have a closer look at this when we sign in as an employee, but even as an admin, you do have access to download the PDF versions. And if you needed to, you can select multiple employees. You can download all of those payslips as a PDF. You can delete payslips if for any reason you need to. Then you can filter by employee name, etc. So this gives you kind of one place where all company payslips can be viewed. But there's more to HR online services than just the payslips. So I do want to give you a very quick tour of the online portal as an owner or administrator. So on the left-hand side here, the next option down is our company directory. Now, because we have admin access, we are able to view all of our employee profiles. So these are the employees that were set up when we enabled online payslips for them. And we can actually click in to any of these employees to view all of the details in their record. So for this first employee, we can see that their first and last name, as well as their email address, has come across from Payroll. It's pulled through their employment start date. So remember, if you hadn't entered a start date in Sage Payroll, this would show the date that you actually enabled online payslips for that employee. But in this case, I have entered the employment start date, so that is all up to date. You can assign direct managers to each of your employees if you want to organize your employees in this company directory. And then you can set the access level, which should be set to employee for most employees. But you can upgrade an account to become an administrator account. For example, if you've got a company owner, someone else in the payroll team that needs administrator access, you can amend their access level and you can give them administrator access. But obviously, only do that for kind of authorized staff. Now, towards the bottom of the employee details, you have got some personal settings. And from here, this is where you can resend the invitation email. So that might be quite useful if you had employees that didn't respond to the invite email within that first 48 hours. Other things you can view in the profile are personal details. So you can see that the address, date of birth, telephone numbers have all been copied across to HR. And there's a documents area that will show you any documents that are shared with that particular employee, as well as a copy of their individual payslips. And this will look pretty much exactly the same as what that employee would see if they logged in and viewed their payslips from their online portal. So that is your company directory, and as an administrator, you have full access to all of these records. Very quick look at the document storage. Now, this is separate to payslips. If there are other documents that you would like to upload to Sage HR, you can do so from here. So that could be things like employee contracts that you want to share with that individual employee, or maybe company policies or handbooks that you want to share with the kind of full company. I've just got one set up at the moment, which I've categorized in the general category. You can create your own categories for documents, and it's just a PDF staff handbook, which I've shared with all employees. So employees have access to this document within their own HR profile. So it's really simple to upload any compatible documents. You would drop the files or click to upload from this option at the top. You can enter a description of your choice. categorize it and choose who to share it with, whether that's everyone or whether that's with selected employees. You've also got options to send email notifications and creating tasks for employees to accept a particular document. Now, you can read more about the documents area of Sage HR in our Help Center. And I'll point out where you create the categories when we take a look at the settings. So that's the last thing I want to show you from the admin point of view. You will have access to all of the settings as an admin. So to find them, you click on your administrator username, top of the screen here. You would then click into settings, and you'll find all the settings categorized between general right through to security. So I'm just going to point some of these out. On the general tab, you can upload your own company logos, which would replace the Sage logo in the header and also on the login page. You have a permissions area where you can control what areas of HR are actually available to view. So there are some global permissions. For example, if you didn't want personal details to be visible in HR at all, could be switched off from here by unticking the box. Or you can set permissions by role. So for most employees, it will be the employee role that will control what they see. And then in this permissions area just underneath, you can actually go to that role and you can change what that role can view. So we had a few questions the last time we ran this about the company directory for employees. So if you didn't want employees to be able to see a company directory, you can customize the employee role. You can actually remove that permission, or you can edit it so that the only employee they can see in the company directory is themselves. So that's something you might want to explore when it comes to customizing the HR portal. Admin permissions, just if you have set up additional admins, you can restrict their access to settings or even to payslips and tax documents by using these checkboxes for any additional admins. And then one of the settings, just to point out for employees, is that you can allow employees to access their payslips after termination, so that's after they leave, by selecting this box at the bottom and then assigning a time limit. So that can be quite useful as well. Other settings, you've got employee data. So this is where you can create your document categories, among other things. And then in the security option, if you go to Sage Accounts and two-factor authentication, if you do want to enable two-factor authentication for employees, so they need to use an authenticator app to log in, you can do that from here as well. So whistle-stop tour really of the admin portal, and that's what it's looking like from the point of view of an employer. So by way of a quick recap, as an HR admin, you do have access to view, download or delete all of your employee payslips. So that can all be accessed from the payslips area. You have full access to the company directory and the individual employee profiles. So you can go in and view the information, edit the information, assign direct managers, etc. You can upload and share documents with any employees you need to do that with. And of course, you can configure your settings and the permissions if you want to do any sort of customization on the portal. And I have linked to a really useful guide in our Help Center, which tells you more about the things you can do as part of your setup. Now, moving on from the employer, I'd now like to take a closer look at the employee journey or the employee experience from the point that you set them up for online payslips. Now, as you know, you can set them up either from the Manage Employees option or from the Individual Employee Record on the Online Services tab. And at the point you enable online payslips for them, they will receive a welcome email, which will have a link to accept that invitation, and then they can go ahead entering their details and creating their login for online services. Now, as part of that, they may need to enter a one-time passcode that will be emailed to them to their email address. But once they've created that login, they've created their own password and completed the registration, they are then able to log in either from a browser or they can download and log in using the mobile app. So I'm going to show you what it looks like from a browser. So in terms of the payslips, they would see a summary of their latest payslip available on their dashboard. So there's a payslips widget, which will give them kind of the main payments and deduction values. They'll also be able to view that full payslip on screen, and they'll be able to access their payslip history from My Profile. And that's where they would see any other payslips that you have uploaded, either for previous periods or by going in to the company archive. And remember as well, they do have access to that payslip as a PDF. So from there, they can sort of download the PDF, print that out if they need to, share that with anyone that may need to see their payslip. So again, I'd like to give you a demo on this one. So let's just bring that up now. So I am now switching over to the employee portal. So I am signed in as Effie, one of our employees. I'm currently on the dashboard view, and you can see in the payslip widget, tells me that we got paid on Friday, the 6th of June. And the initial view is that the payment values are hidden, just in case there's anyone looking over your shoulder, but that can be toggled to show the values by selecting this switch at the bottom. So that was my net pay for the Friday, the 6th of June. Got a summary of my gross pay and deductions. But if I want to view that full pay slip, I can do just that by clicking on the option here. And as you can see, got the payment date, pay frequency, and employee details. I've got the summary of the pay and deductions, as well as the net pay that we're receiving. And if I scroll down a bit further, that's where we get to see some of the detail. So the different payment types. I've got a salary, got a benefit in kind, and I've also got some expenses payments. Got the deductions for this period and the year-to-date balance. Then we've got cumulative details, sort of running totals for this tax year. So that is the view on screen, but the employee can of course download the full PDF by clicking download PDF payslip. If they've got pop-ups blocked, they may need to enable them for this site. So they might see a warning telling them if pop-ups are blocked. It's just on a bit of a go slow there, but you can see that that document has now loaded up in my browser. It's going to zoom in slightly there. And this is the PDF version of that same payslip. So the employee could download that, they could print it from here, and that gives them the full detail that they'll be used to, the same format as you would get if you printed them out. They can view the payslip history, which will actually take them into their profile, into the payslips area. So this is the same view that we saw as an admin user just a few moments ago. Again, you can view the payslip on screen. Got the options for downloading them. They can even make a multiple selection. And they could choose to download all of these as a single file. So that's their payslip view, but I do want to show you a little bit more about their HR profile. So as an employee, they can view their own details. And they've got this option here where they could upload a photo, a profile picture, which will then be visible in the company directory. We can see things like the start date here and any direct manager, if that's been assigned. And then coming down to the personal details, this is where we can see date of birth, got the address lines and some contact details. And it does mean that if the employee needs to update any personal details, such as their address, they can do so from here. So what Effie might need to do if she's moved is to enter her new address. So I'm just going to change a couple of the address lines here for the demo, and they can scroll to the bottom and they can save those changes. Now, because they've updated a field that's synced to Payroll, it does mean that we can import these changes back into Payroll, which I'm just going to show you towards the end of the demo. But again, it gives the employee, kind of empowers them to self-serve, keep their details up to date, as I say, add their profile picture. They can view any documents that are shared with them. So we have a staff handbook which is shared with everyone. So this is available for FE to view as well. And there is a company directory set up, but you wouldn't be able to access the other employee details. They would just see the names. So I've got the company directory here. If I did click on anything, it doesn't give me any of their profile details. It's just going to show actually that same document that is also shared with us. Now, if you wanted to, you can switch off the company directory. You can remove it from the employee permissions. That would need to be done as an admin user. So yeah, that is the employee's profile, which they can access from a browser, and they can see much the same information also from a mobile device. So we've seen there how to view the payslips, seen a history of the payslips as well within the employee profile, and also how an employee can maintain their own details, upload the photo, and keep everything up to date in HR. You'll see a little bit later on how you can import these changes into Payroll using the Retrieve Sage HR Employee Updates option. And just also to let you know, if you make a change in the payroll record to one of these synced fields, that change will also be updated automatically in HR. Now, before we move on to that, I have mentioned the HR mobile app, and I've included some links which tell you more about that on the slide. But I'm just going to play another quick video demo of the process of receiving a payslip and using the mobile app from a smartphone. So just looking at that now, you'll see you get a push notification at the top there whenever a payslip is published, and you can tap onto that, get yourself logged in using Face ID if required. And then, as you can see, you can view the details, summary of that payslip by tapping on the summary at the top. You can also see the full payslip by clicking onto it, and you can scroll through viewing the payment information on screen. So that's got everything that you would see on the online view, including all of the year-to-date values. And the option to download the full PDF payslip is available from that mobile device, and that can then be saved to the device, could be shared as an email or a message. As well as that, there's a menu option towards the bottom right-hand corner, and from there, they'll be able to view their own profile. So they can view employment details, personal details, can even edit them if they need to update their address, for example. That could be done from the app, which will update immediately in Sage HR. And they can view any documents assigned to them. So they've got that Documents tab. You can see in this case there's the link to that staff handbook. Because we've got the company directory enabled, we can view the names in the company directory as well. But with the employee role, we wouldn't see any further employee details. And that is the HR mobile app. It's available on the App Store or from Google Play. They would sign in with the same email address and password that they use from a browser. Okay, so just to complete the picture then, we've seen that changes could be made in the HR portal, and I'd like to show you how those changes can then be brought back into Payroll, ensuring that information between Payroll and HR is kept fully in sync. Now, this is something that you would need to do at start of period. So you would do it at the beginning of your next pay run. You can check for updates in Sage HR, and then if there have been any changes to employee personal details, new employees that have been set up in HR and not yet set up in Payroll, if you've entered leaving details in HR or you've deleted an employee, that's when you get a notification. For most of these, you can import those changes into Payroll. So quick demo on that just to finish things off. So I'm just going to bring Payroll back up, and I'm going to set my next period So whenever you set the period, it will let you know if it's detected payslips have been uploaded, just to remind you to complete that step if you haven't yet done that. I'm just going to move into period 24. And then once we are at start of period, again in the process map, we've got this option to retrieve Sage HR employee updates. And what we can see here is that Effie has got an update. So we've got some changes, and clicking on this information icon, you can see those address lines that I changed on Effie's portal are ready to be imported into our payroll. So we would just click the import button and it will tell us that those employee records are now successfully updated in payroll. And if I take a look at that same employee, you can see that the address is now up to date and matches what we're seeing in Sage HR. Now, the other way around, if I move on to my next employee, I've got an address change, for example. I'm just going to change these address lines. I'm going to enter a start date because it wasn't previously entered. And click on to save. You can see that those employee changes have been successfully updated in HR. And just to show you that, back in as an administrator, if I go back to my company directory, we'll have a look at Fritz, it's the employee that we just updated. I can check his personal details and you can see that that change has been made in our HR system. So a bit of a two-way sync. Whenever you save the details in the employee record, it syncs, and then at start of period, that's when we can retrieve the latest Sage HR updates. And again, you can read more on retrieving employee information if you follow the link there in your handout. So that's actually brought us to the end of the demonstrations that I want to give you on the online services feature. But let's just talk briefly about your next steps, particularly if you're not already on a subscription. I also want to inform you about one of our support services that we have available for this. Now, online services is only available with a Sage 50 Payroll subscription. And if you're not sure whether you have a subscription or not, the easiest way to check is to try to set up online services. I go into online services and online payslips, and then choosing any of the setup options. And if you see the message that pops up that's on the slide here, that it's not currently available on your existing license, that indicates that you're not on a subscription, you're probably still on an annual support contract. Now, if that is the case and you are keen to move to a subscription so you can start using online payslips, you just need to get in touch with our team. I have put a link to that on the handout if you want the contact details from there, but I'm also going to put a poll up on screen in a few minutes, which will allow you to leave your details with me and request a callback from our team. Now, there's a bit more information on what you get with a subscription on the current slide. I'm not going to go through all of this, but as you can see, online services is kind of one of the main additions to a subscription license, as well as a level of HR advice, which is one of our other HR services that we bundle in with that. So as I say, if you're interested in moving to subscription, if you're not already on it, you can let us know when we put that poll up on screen. The other service just to mention is that we do have a one-to-one training team who can deliver a live enablement session if you would like some expert guidance as you go through your online payslips setup. It is a premium service and charges do apply to this service, but if you'd like to know more about what's involved and again maybe get a quote for that, you will be able to leave your details with us. So typically with these enablement sessions, they would go through the data cleanse steps with you, ensuring that you have got up-to-date email addresses and start dates in your employee record. They can go through ensuring that you're using a suitable login for your administrator account, and obviously go through some of the customization steps where required on the Sage HR portal. So great service that I would highly recommend, particularly if you're not so confident about doing this yourself. And as I say, if you want more details, do respond to the poll that will go up on screen shortly. Finally, just to mention our online help centre, everything I've covered today is also covered in our help centre, probably in a bit more detail as well. You can access it from the help centre icon in Sage 50 Payroll, or in your browser, you can go to sage.ie/help and follow the links for Sage Payroll, formerly MicroPay. It's the hub that I've highlighted on the screen there for Sage HR online services that you'll find everything that you need. And if you need to get in touch with our technical support team, you'll also find the get in touch options from that support hub. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to stick around and leave the webinar open so you can submit any further questions that you might have. I'm also going to put that poll on screen. So if you are interested and would like to be contacted with more information on moving to a subscription or for our one-to-one training service, all you would need to do is to tick the appropriate boxes and click submit. That will send you details through to us, and we will be in touch over the coming days. So I'm going to leave that on screen for a few minutes, and myself and the guys behind the scenes will continue answering your questions in the Q&A, and I will come back to you in a few minutes when we are ready to close the webinar down. So I'm going to speak to you shortly. Hello again, everyone. Thank you so much for sending those questions through. And for those of you that responded to our poll, we will pass your details on and a member of our team will be in contact in due course. We are nearly out of time, and I can see that we have sent through answers to pretty much all of the questions that have come through. Just to let you know that you will receive a follow-up email later this afternoon with a link to watch the recording of today's session if there's anything that you missed that you need to catch up on. And if you do want to download the handout, it's the last couple of minutes before we close down, so you can grab that from the handouts area. We will also invite you to take our webinar survey as you leave the session today. So if you do have any feedback on what you've seen today or the webinar itself, do let us know on that feedback survey. We do read all of your comments, and it helps us to keep these webinars the best they can be. With that said, though, I'm going to say goodbye on behalf of myself and the team behind the scenes. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend, and maybe we'll see you on some of our webinars in the future. But it's goodbye for now.